Hi again. I'm Joe Connolly with producer Neil A. Caruso with Ellen Ashendorf of Egg Electric, egg symbolizing new beginnings, as in beginning new projects and big jobs. Ellen was a trailblazer when she started a construction related business over 30 years ago. Now she's on the leading edge again as more of their work in electric servicing goes to the fast growing renewable and clean energy sectors. But first of all, Ellen, I have to ask you, what was it like being a woman on construction sites 30 years ago?
That's a great question. In the 1980s, there was no political correctness. So the world as we know it today, especially the last 5 years, where everything is political correctness is essential in every corporate setting. And if people don't treat other people correctly, they're called upon, or they lose sponsorships, etc. In the 80s, I could walk on a construction site and walk into a field office, and the guys would open up what's called a gang box, and there would be nudie pictures inside. Okay, and people would ask me if I was lost. Some people would hang up the phone when they asked who the person in charge was, and I said speaking. They would click.
Wow.
So it was the Wild West for women in construction.
Wow. Well, thank you for what you've done for equality. Never mind electricity. We'll get to that in a minute. How's business right now for Egg Electric?
Well, we're having a record year this year, which is miraculous after what we went through in 2021 as a result of the pandemic. So we're very grateful for a lot of our clients who have gone ahead with their projects that were planned, and some of it being sustainable energy, but basically across the board.
What are most of your jobs now?
Well, we work in the commercial sector. We don't do, we've done, but we don't really work in the residential sector. So if we do new buildings, they are commercial or private schools. So for example, we did two buildings for Columbia, the business schools for Columbia University. Um, we're working for mostly the big corporate world, as in right now we have projects going on for Facebook at 50 Hudson Yards, for Amazon at 424 Fifth Avenue. Um, we're doing a DDC garage project in Queens, which has the EV. We're doing a hospital for a long client, NYU Medical, in Brooklyn, in Cobble Hill. And
Ellen, who sells these? Do you go out and sell these accounts?
yeah, and the last one I want to mention is with Galaxy, which is a project for Disney. They're building new studios, but we okay. So back to the '80s, no one people didn't just accept me. So I decided to dot the I's and cross the T. That no one catch me if you can. I was going to finish the job, do everything correctly, and give excellence. So what is the saying? Build it and they will come. I wasn't part of the old boys network, and that's what happened. So we actually don't have salespeople at Egg Electric. We build and make it easier for the client, the end user, and everyone else on the project. We're a great team member, and that brings them back. And in 1989, our first job was with Structure Tone, and we're presently doing the jobs for Amazon, Disney, Facebook. Those are all Structure Tone projects. Who's been a client since day one. So we have other accounts, but that's just an example. We like to keep the same people, the same customers. If we could do well for them, they take us along with them to the next project.
Just for the business audience, though, that watches these, with no salespeople, how do the jobs come to you? I guess you had to sell them once upon a
Well,
time, and you've
okay.
kept them.
So I'm telling you that with Structure Tones, it started. Well, I worked for them with a prior employer, but with Egg Electric since 1989. And it's just, if we do a good job, it's one job, then we're handed another job. If you do a good job, people want to work with you.
It seems to me too that your business has evolved over time. You haven't just, obviously now you're doing EVs a lot. That didn't exist back then. And it appears with a smaller team, maybe you're more nimble than others. How would you categorize how your business handles these projects for these larger companies?
So it's funny that you said that. So in 1990/91, there was, after the roaring 80s, there was a bit of a recession and a big downturn in construction. So I had just started. So I said, you know what? I read the Wall Street Journal. I said, okay, so let me try to get some of this work that's out there. And we did some of the first 9X cell towers back then. So we started doing, right from the beginning, different work. And traditionally, people were you did hospitals, schools, commercial, residential, you did one of those. But I didn't know any better. So I started going wherever the jobs were. And that was a technical job. We were involved with the New York Power Authority, NYPA, with their first energy saving programs with lighting, where we changed all the lights at many of the colleges that get their power from New York Power Authority, colleges and high schools. So it's basically, we followed the business world and the energy world.
What would you say, and first, how many employees do you guys have?
250 now.
250 now. How do you stay ahead of these projects so that you're considered first?
Well, we're what's called shortlisted. So we don't have to be the only one, but we're one of a small group. So over the years, telling you we would do all these unusual projects that other people might have traditionally been afraid of, that got us in the world today. So now we're doing projects for the top businesses, and also we do a lot of hospital work. So NYU Medical Center, and now New York, we're working them for 30 years. So all the equipment, we keep current with it, with the theaters that we're doing and all the wild jobs. They're all wild, the jobs we do for all the clients that I met before. They're state of the art, the biggest architects, HOK, Gensler, these people, RDA, engineering, these are all state of the art projects. And you have to get into the details. So again, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I don't mean to be confrontational, but it's the old school that if you give a husband and wife, tell them where to go, the husband says, I'll get there. And this is back in the 80s, 90s. And the wife would say, let me read the map. So I read the map. And like Ina Sharma, my vice president, she reads the map. She gets into every architectural detail with the lighting. And a lot of other people say, not to be said, they just say, okay, we know what to do. We're electricians. We got it. I'm not an electrician. I'm a smart woman and a businesswoman, and I have smart people working with me. I'm like, gee, let me take a look at this and see what this is. So I read the map.
Right.
I was going to ask you that, Ellen. You're not an electrician.
No.
That I was just thinking maybe you had been in the past, but I mean, you probably could pass the test.
Absolutely. So I had the ability, actually, I think it helped me because as an electrician, you're taught to do things a certain way, especially we're a union company. So you have to do, this is the apprenticeship, this is the training. I didn't have this. So right from the beginning, where people would have problems, I was free to come up with a solution that wasn't standard. Now that's popular now, but I assure you, through the first, it was unheard of. They'd call me to a job site, Ellen, we can't fit this in here. So, we're going over, the overhead doesn't have enough. So I'd say, okay, well, go on the wall. And they'd say, well, we don't go on the wall. I'd say, but that's okay. go on the wall. You'll still get there. So I was free to have the ability to think outside of the box. And that brings a lot. One of our, there's a couple of were like mottos that we have or mission statements, but one of them is there are no problems, only solutions. And it sounds cliche, but we're an industry with this thousands and thousands of details and obstacles, and we're bringing together. Nowadays, it's not like when I started; it was much easier then. But nowadays, there's integration, and we lead the team. They could have all of their IT, audio, visual, technical, theatrical people, and all the other trades, and we make it a point to make sure the integration is correct.
So speaking of solutions, I understand that you're really knee deep into electric vehicles right now. It appears that while EVs are incredibly popular, there still isn't the infrastructure available across the country. What are you currently working on, and what do you think the timetable is to get this EV infrastructure up and running, especially here in New York?
So we've had a couple of projects, but right now let's speak about this Queens parking garage. DDC is a New York City agency, and there's a design build project that we're working with the Hunter Roberts Construction Group as well as JB&B, who are the electrical engineers, to come up with the whole concept to get them this building built within budget, within the time frame. And there are two things in it. One is there is the EV chargers, and there's also the solar panels. So it's a very progressive project. And this is what's going to happen now. This is happening. Obviously, the additional funding that was just approved this year is going to help. We're looking forward for them rolling it out. And also by doing a design build, it doesn't take as long. They don't have to have it fully designed and then go out to bid. They have the concept, what they need. But on this project, aside from doing putting these EV chargers, they have a combination of the fast and the high energy and the regular ones. But they've had us put a tremendous amount of infrastructure for phase 2, like putting in empty pipes for future EV chargers. So that tells me that the city is already thinking about the future, and they're expecting this to increase more and more, all these vehicle companies. So it's going in to have a 50% increase in the amount of chargers in the job. I mean, that's going to be, you're going to pull up to your local garage, whatever town you live in. Like a lot of times they have park and rides or whatever it is, and you're going to have your charger there. It's here. And the whole roof is all solar panels. It's tremendous. It's exciting.
Ellen, I read that your company did the scoreboard at Shea Stadium. Now that must have been an interesting, cool job, was it?
You're dating us. This was obviously, now we have City Fields. That was on a day with Shea Stadium. So there was a period that we maintained all their. Every game, you had 30 electricians running the scoreboards and running all the operations. If I tell you, I could write a book because we've been blessed with the most unusual projects and very detailed and technical jobs, and they're just high design, great projects with great engineers and great architects. So,
and you had an electrician or more than one, if I'm correct, there every day. There was a home game so that if the board went out, they could fix it?
Not only the board, there was about 30 electricians each game from Egg Electric.
Every game.
There, just making it run, just having everything run, making sure that all the TV stations were hooked up, that everything was working, all the concessions, everything soup to nuts that went on in a ball game, we were running at that point.
Wow.
Ellen, what you have done as a business owner and as a woman in business is a heck of a story. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Joe, and Appreciate the time.